I may not be inclined to talk on this topic, but I genuinely think it's a major societal issue which I think we need to band against together as one to help to like eradicate this from the earth, basically. Many people think that things like porn are the main destroyer of young men and young women in society nowadays because of the fact that it's incredibly addictive, and due to its accessibility on the internet nowadays, so many children just get like hooked onto it immediately. Like the second they get access to the internet, it's one of probably the first things that they see, and it ends up just leading these children, like 8 year olds and people maybe even younger or like slightly older, like 10 to 8 year olds, leads them down a bad path of depression, anxiety, and a lot of mental suffering, which they could honestly just do better without. But I think we've got a new contender for something that's going to absolutely just destroy families, destroy children, and cause a lot of suffering, more than you probably think. And if you live in the UK, you may have heard of the current school system where you have a primary school, a secondary school, and a primary school is from ages 7 maybe to like 11, and that is the kind of age range we're going to be talking about in this video, and it's to do with the topic of vaping. Now, vaping is like a replacement for cigarettes, which still contains like the nicotine, which is the addictive substance which usually hooks people onto cigarettes, but it's taken the nicotine out and then extracted it and combined it with a load of other chemicals to make things taste like fruity, so it's like nice and stuff. And I honestly think that vaping is like the bane of modern society, more than maybe porn, and it will probably end up overtaking it in the future. And it's the fact that primary school kids, 11-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, do things like vape in the toilets. Now, people have always done bad things in secondary school, in the toilets, and outside of school. But primary school children, I remember when I was in primary school, I was still playing childish little ball games and stuff on the field and on the playground. This was not even a thought in my mind, and how people's minds, these young kids' minds, have been bleached and brainwashed and mashed and like every negative word you could possibly think of, to the fact that they actually are addicted to these kind of things. It's very, very, very sad. And I think as a community and as a society, we need to band together to like eradicate this a new kind of addiction, which I think is going to end up overtaking porn as the destroyer of like society and stuff. Because yeah, it's sad how kids in these primary schools vape. A friend told me that they like sit in the toilets and just do it because they're addicted to it. And the reason they kind of do it is there's like a 3-step process to getting addicted to these kind of things, like porn, like vaping, smoking, weed, everything like that. A 3-step process called introduction, repetition, and addiction. And introduction is probably the phase that we need to eradicate like the most. It's the most important phase, and it's the one that we need to eradicate. And the way kids get introduced to these kind of things is through kind of like older brothers and older friends. An older brother may have like got into bad habits like vaping because their friends did it in secondary school, and they may not be such a good older brother, and they may introduce these kind of things to their younger brother thinking that they may enjoy it because vaping is such a good thing that gives you like loads of highs. They introduce it to this like 10-year-old child. They get hooked. The 10-year-old child gets hooked onto the vape, repeats it, and then like gets addicted to it. And then they end up having to get vapes from their older brother. They bring them into school because they're addicted, they're hooked, they have to do it during school hours. They do it during the toilets. They end up introducing it to their friends in school, so that now there's like a group of maybe 5 to 10 people that are addicted to vaping inside a school and do it inside the toilets. And this ends up kind of like dispersing throughout younger generations. And this is like 10-year-olds we're talking about here. And these naive, impressionable kids don't really know better than to think that these vapes contain incredibly harmful chemicals that at such a young age will literally kill them prematurely, probably at the ages of like 30 to 40 to 20. And it's incredibly sad, and I think we need to band together to fight this like new drug in a way. And the second part of this video, I'm gonna talk a bit about recovering from this new drug and just a little like bro science, almost simple tip that's not like therapy or anything, which I genuinely recommend for people if you're going through like vaping addictions and vaping troubles, because it's such a new thing that's not had any scientific research done on it, and it seems quite similar to the kind of smoking epidemic of maybe the 1950s or 1960s, where people thought that smoking was healthy, until data started coming back where people realized they'd die of lung cancer. And the same thing is going to happen to vaping, because smoking makes you die prematurely. I think it's going to say the same kind of process is going to happen to vaping as well. And the second part of this video is going to be a single tip to maybe help you stop vaping, because for most people, therapy is like not really an option to get off vaping, either because they're underage or it's like too expensive for them. And the simple tip is to just become more productive. Have like things to do during the day. Instead of going out to your nearest like town centre, city centre, like whatever, and like buying vapes or like ordering them online or whatever, you just like fill your time with better things to do than vaping. I mean, it sounds simple, but it is actually quite difficult. Maybe you like vape or like you go out to buy a vape in like the afternoon, in the middle of the day. Why not in the afternoon you meditate and you journal, or you work out in the like the afternoon or something? And that means that you're just not going to find the time to be able to like vape. You're not going to find the time to go out and get a vape. And maybe if you're like incredibly addicted, this is going to be a hard thing, because no matter what, you will always find the time. You will like go out in the dead of night and like buy a vape just to satiate your bad addiction. And if this is the case for you, because for most people they're not too badly like deep in this kind of addiction, but a lot of people are, and for them I say that you just have to increase your willpower and like resistance to vapes. If you like place a vape out in front of you and like just go on and do some studying, do some work or whatever, and you like literally just train your willpower as you're sitting there and the vape's in front of you, and you just don't use it. And that is a good like trick, especially if you're like vaping, binge eating, you're addicted like weed and smoking and stuff like that. That's a good tip to help you to not like be so like hooked on the vape. You just kind of have it in front of you, but just don't use it. Because now hopefully you understand how bad vaping is. You're going to have like the motivation to, only the addiction is the thing that you're going to have to break down. It's not something that you actually hopefully enjoy doing anymore. It's not something that hopefully you enjoy, but rather it's just an addiction that you need to solve. And this is one surefire almost way to help you get over this addiction. So I hope you found value out of this video. I hope maybe you understand like the, not importance really, but the fact that vaping is such a big issue, especially among youths in modern society. And maybe if you currently do vape, then you can find value out the second part of this video, where I gave you a little couple tips and tricks just to maybe help you reduce the amount of time that you kind of spend vaping. So yeah, that's about all for the video. I recommend subscribing, because I love this community of tribal people who are willing to improve themselves so much more than they already have. So good luck.